Oh, okay. As a child, I just always felt like an underdog. Like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't
Mm.
the smartest. I had some really gnarly experiences in school with my teachers. I am absolutely 100% sure that rock climbing is by far the best thing you can ever do.
Wow.
Climbing has taught me is a lot of the principles we use in coaching, but in the way that my body has to deal with it. It's sort of like
Mm.
I call climbing a meditation with a gun to your head.
Oh, that's
Be
good.
present, be present, be present.
Or you'll fall and die. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reinvent You Podcast. My guest today is a transformational coach and a lifelong rock climber. She combines her climbing experience with her mastery coaching. She has helped train Navy SEALs. Can you even imagine that? Navy SEALs at Yosemite Valley. And she is also the founder of Rock Climbing Life Coach. Today on the Reinvent You Podcast, we are going to delve into mastering your mind, overcoming your fears, creating purpose, and how easy it is to connect with your body. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to welcome my guest today, Marta Czajkowska.
I can't believe you spelled my name right and pronounced it well.
It's a tough name. It takes practice. So, Marta, welcome to the Reinvent You podcast. I'm so excited to have you here, and thank you for agreeing to come on the show. So,
Man, this amazing welcome. I'm like, whoa, I must be someone important.
absolutely, you are so important. So, let's delve right in, right? So, I like to start off every episode with my interview guests as far as, well, who is Marta? And what's a little bit of your story, and why is it that I had so much difficulty pronouncing your name? Because it's not like you are from the States and your last name is Smith or Jones, right? So just tell us a little bit about who Marta is today.
It's an interesting question because it's like, who am I? Holy smoke.
Yeah.
So why don't I give you a little backstory, and then that will bring me to today. I was born in Warsaw, Poland. This was the time when Poland was still behind the Iron Curtain. And the older I am, the more I appreciate that actually. What we thought was us being underprivileged or not caught up with the world was actually such a blessing. Growing up without having a lot of things and having to rely on ourselves and having a dream. For me, a dream appeared when I was in my teens to connected with starting to rock climb, and I wanted to go and see the world and rock climb. And and it was really hard for me to do. I didn't have any money, I didn't have any resources, but that really drove me to accomplish it. Against all odds, I will go and do it. And yeah, so that brought me to Yosemite Valley. I was 20 years old. I had about $200 to my name, and I was out to experience the world. And that was sort of the beginning of my story.
Of your story. Wow. So just jumping into something I find to be so fascinating about you. So I read on your website that when you were younger, that one of you mastered judo, right? And so your coach wanted to train you for the Olympics, and dad said no. Tell me a little bit about that judo journey, and do you even still practice?
No, and it's just an interesting piece that showed that. Oh, okay. As a child, I just always felt like an underdog. Like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't
Mm.
the smartest. I had some really gnarly experiences in school with my teachers, but yet I had talents. And I think this is everyone, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know it, but I had those talents, and I always had a pretty high athletic IQ and talents with to do with my body. But I didn't know it. And so as I was a little kid going to judo practice, and I had no idea that I was any good, at some point the teacher approached my dad and he's like, she's got the most potential out of all the kids.
Wow.
But I was 7. Like, I had no idea about the potential or that I was any better or whatever. And then my dad said no, and I asked him later why, and he said, "Have you ever seen what Olympic judo ladies look like?" Right. So that was his answer, and I was like, okay, I get it.
Wow. So what did that mean? Like, let's interpret that. Have you ever seen what real judo women look like? So your dad didn't want you to what?
I think he just thought they weren't very feminine,
Mm,
or I didn't never felt that he was judging my appearance.
hmm.
That's not what this was about.
Okay.
It was more about maybe his fears. Now that I think that, thinking of what he thought that the path that this might set me on,
Absolutely.
path of greatness.
Okay, I get that, and just in sharing something about me, I had my friend Heidi on the podcast a few months ago, and Heidi is a tarot card reader. And I always feel like our parents are trying to protect us, even though if they don't know the right words at that time, there's always a real protective kind of motive for doing that. So I'm sure your dad had his reasons, and the fact that I couldn't openly discuss things with my mom, I didn't realize until after Heidi pointed some things out. And she's like, your mom was just trying to protect you by
Mm,
not opening the door to more scrutiny and judgment. And
right.
so, there's lots of things that we don't understand as young children.
Mhm.
But when you look back on it, you go, oh, that's why he did that.
Right.
So, yeah, so totally get that. So, Marta, I am inspired by you because, especially like your strength, you're very, very strong. And I'm so inspired by your climbing and your whole background in that. The only climbing I've ever done, which probably isn't even climbing. It was rappelling down like a big rock in Mexico,
Uh-huh.
with all the gear and everything, because we were snorkeling. We went
Mm,
down, into the cenotes. And then the third part of it was rappelling down,
mhm.
So if someone were they wanted to start rock climbing, right, today, where would you suggest they start today?
Mhm. Well, first thing I want to say about this is that I am absolutely 100% sure that rock climbing is by far the best thing you can ever do.
Wow.
So if
Okay.
you're thinking about, if it's, for me, when I was a teenager, somebody mentioned the word climbing and I was like, this is it. That's what I'm going to do all my life.
Wow. Yeah.
So for whoever is listening, if you feel like you might like it, go and try it out. The reason why I think it's so good, and Ernest Hemingway said there's only two real sports that men do on earth, which is bullfighting and mountain climbing.
Wow. Okay.
Because they're
Okay.
the only ones that have, the other ones are all games of men.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know. I've never heard that.
And the reason why I say this is because it conditions your body in so
Hmm.
many ways, in such a complex ways, with balance and strength and perseverance and dealing with discomfort. And it does the same to your mind.
Okay.
So in that way, it's incredibly complex at the same as all encompassing of human nature.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. So I'm assuming that rock climbing has provided you such an enormous foundation, an incredible foundation, right? I feel like it's one of your superpowers, one of your unique gifts, that makes you different. How do you incorporate that whole philosophy with leaning into your edges, with your rock climbing, with your coaching?
Mm, yeah. And it's I do it all the time. I do it in every session is the real answer. Um, what climbing has taught me is a lot of the principles we use in coaching, but in the way that my body has to deal with it. It's sort of like,
Mhm.
I call climbing a meditation with a gun to your head.
Oh, that's
Be
good.
present, be present, be present.
Yeah, or you'll fall and die.
And there's so much more as well. So presence is number one thing that
Mhm.
is obvious. Next thing is the idea that we have about ourselves, who we are, how fit we are, how hard we can climb, right? We see the same stuff with anything we do in life.
Absolutely.
how good am I at my business? How good am, like, how much more can I push myself? What
Mhm.
are the ways that I stop myself from
Yeah.
excelling, right? And so rock climbing just shows it in the smaller, more contrived environment where you can kind of see it under the magnifying glass.
Mhm.
The way I look at it, I see it in my climbing, and then I see it in all the rest of my life. And so if I know how to fix it in climbing, I know how to fix it.
Yeah. So did you ever have a part of your practice where you took people out and like climbed with them in person? Because I know with COVID and everything, we're all on Zoom. But was there ever a time you were doing one-on-one coaching in person with climbing as part of it?
Yeah, I spent many years teaching climbing,
Hmm.
and 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 then I spent years coaching. So I've done both things, and now I'm looking forward to a time where I can actually bring it together.
Nice.
Um, it's circling back to your previous question that I didn't answer about how does a person start rock climbing, because this is sort of combined.
Yeah.
um, Basically going to a local gym where you can start, meet people, start
Mhm.
climbing. That's a great way. It's also the way how I would start climbing with a client. Send them to the gym, maybe go with them first couple times, show them some stuff so they
Right.
can start getting in the process of it. Because let's say in the first 10 times you're climbing, you're just dealing with the physical sensation and the fear. So in order to take this deeper, you need to be able to master that first piece, which that in itself is super helpful for a lot of people, because a lot of people have very physical sensation of pain, of fear, right? So
Yeah.
that's sort of the first layer of the cake.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like when I think of, climbing even in an indoor space, I'm a person who needs, in order to jump, I need to know that there's a bit of a net. And so for me to start climbing, that would be the perfect place for me to start, because I would go, okay, the floor is like 12 feet down, hopefully, maybe no more, maybe 20. We'll go 20. The floor is 20 feet down, and surely there's some mats and stuff, and there's people all around. And so for some people, like, I love that you suggest that it being like a rock climbing gym, because that, like, even I would be willing to do that, What about
Nice.
that person, right? What about that person that comes to you and says, no, no, I'm an athlete. Let's go outside. Let's really do it like the very first time, because they're athletic. Let's say they're a college athlete and they go, and you look at their physical fitness. Could you take them out there day one?
Of course. And this is the trips we've done with Navy SEALs look just like that. These people have never climbed
Wow.
before. They're obviously incredibly, incredibly capable. They learn daily and so on. And so they came in, and normally stuff that takes us up to 2 years to teach a normal person, we would do
Mhm.
in 3 days.
Wow. Okay.
So with someone who's capable, the big problem with people that are physically active and capable, but don't are not trained in the learning and failure, is that they think they can do it. And so that's the worst. The worst piece is if the false confidence, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of need both. A classic example of uh, a university athlete coming in would be that they would get their butt kicked like no tomorrow,
Right.
right? Because they think they can, but they have
Right.
no idea what they're doing.
Right. But yeah, so the fine balance between, I can totally get out there and do that, right? Because then they're not timid. Unlike me, who is like tippy toeing, it's like, are we close to the edge now? Are we close to the edge? What? Why are we so close to the edge? What do you mean we're going over, right?
Mm.
And so finding that balance of, well, how confident do I need to be? I bet
You know,
that's tough.
this is a brilliant, brilliant question, because it's something I never thought of. So, okay, so a person that's not confident enough, and all I have to do is be like, "Oh, come on, you got it, just try it," right?
Yeah.
It's a it's hard because their timidness is in their way of learning, right? And now you have
Right.
someone who's like, "I got it," blah blah blah, and they thrash, right? And they get right. So it's both having the confidence and having the open door to receive feedback and listen and actually try things in the way that is technically sequenced, right? Try
Yeah.
this. Okay, good, right? So ability to take feedback, I would
Hmm.
say.
Okay,
Right.
okay, that would be the deciding thing. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
nice. So I don't want to gloss over. I know everybody's wondering right now, how did you like get the job of training the Navy SEALs? That's
Yeah.
badass.
Yeah, I cheated. I I was so lucky to be friends with these guys that had Navy SEAL training contracts, and I
Okay,
just begged them to take me on trips. And because there was no women ever in those training camps, right? It's
okay.
all it's man's world, and so I was like, come on, just let me go. Let me go be part of it. And so I was so annoying to those guys that they finally started taking me. And it was great to see how these high level guys, that military guys, they can tell a person that has a skill. They can
Hmm.
just tell, like, they live in the skilled world. So they were like, she's got skill, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
They didn't have to question, you know, where I came from or whatever. So yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So I want to delve into some of your personal experience again, because the stuff that you do is so adventurous. I would assume that adventure is one of your top values. Am I wrong in assuming that?
I would call it anarchy and freedom.
Whoa, not even adventure, anarchy and freedom. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So I like, the original, the first version of my podcast was called Work That Out. I still love to integrate that theme in my show. And I love to know what is my guest work that out story. Now, of course, if you go to your website, looking at your quote, the best way to start massive change in your life is to have a near death experience on your website. That's so cool, but so scary. What has been your work that out moment? And if that's not it, please tell us about that near death experience as well.
Mhm. I think that was really it. So I was recently reflecting on my life and looking at all the different pieces that made me who I am and
Yeah.
uniquely suited to serve people, um, certain people that might connect with me, right? And the big part was, as we would say in the hero's journey, leaving the village, right? So there
Yeah.
was a moment when I was 18 and I saw a video about Yosemite Valley, and I said, that's where I'm going. I am leaving Poland, Warsaw, Poland, and I'm going, right? And me now, this is 20 years ago, me now, I have so much respect and I honor that person in me that did that.
Mhm.
Like I didn't like, it was so scary, but I was so driven that by the idea that I had in my head, I didn't know what it was, but I knew I was going, right?
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of my journey, I would say. And then um, about 5 years ago, I had a secondary secondary paradigm shift that came. At this point, I have been traveling and climbing and sort of living my dream for years, and I was married. We had just bought a house. We had just bought a TV and a couch and a TV. And my friends came over, and I went with them to Mexico for Christmas holiday. So it's been 5 years as of this month. As of as of today.
Really?
Okay, this is
There's
amazing.
something in that.
December 14th. So 5 years,
Wow.
imagine that, you guys. 5 years ago, December 14th, I had bought this house. I have a couch, I have a TV, and I'm like, let's go to Mexico with my friends for a couple, like, we're going for like 4 days.
Yeah.
Day two, I fall, I break a hold, and I fall unconscious on the ground. As I wake up, I'm like, holy smokes, I'm still up on a mountain. My friend has to um, rappel with me. and there was no car because the whole story, right?
Yeah.
I regain consciousness, the car comes, and we're looking for a hospital. There's no hospital. So we drive, towards Ensenada, blah, blah, blah. No hospital, no hospital. Finally, I'm like, I think I'm fine. Well, let's go to American Hospital because I think that might be better,
Yeah.
And I end up going to an ER in Santa Barbara where my friend was a doctor.
Oh,
And he's
wow.
like, just come on in. And I go in, and he's a good climbing friend of mine. And they do all these tests on me. And he comes in with the test results with this huge smile. And he says, this couldn't have gone any better. Your muscles are so strong in your lats that even though you broke 4 vertebrae
Whoa.
in your back, it's completely inconsequential. You will not, it will not affect your disc. It will not affect any of your mobility.
Wow.
And so this was kind of the outside story. Meanwhile, on the inside, as I'm in the car getting driven from middle of nowhere Mexico to this hospital, I'm like, okay, my life's going to change completely now. I clearly know this. It's never going to be the same again. So how am I going to live it? This being the new life, how am I going to live it? How am I going to live it? And from this idea of working with people, I knew at this moment, I need to pass what I've been learning on. I need to help people find courage, leave the village, right? And so that was this process. And the first thing I did after that is I went home and told my dear husband that I was leaving him and I had to go on to my new own adventure. So yeah, it was like that. I was like, I know I have to do it.
There's so much in there I want to unpack in your story. First of all, 3 things. How did you were you climbing down and did you just miss the rope? Did you miss a grab?
No, my foothold broke. So as I was actually climbing down, and as my foothold broke, I kind of fell.
Wow.
I scraped my belly and I fell.
Okay.
About 15, 20 feet. I'm not sure.
Okay. Number 2, I feel like you're a walking example of what it really means to be physically fit and how you can benefit from that. Like you showing up at the emergency room, you got 4 vertebrae broken, but because you're so strong, your lats are so strong, it did nothing to you. It was like any other person. What would have happened to someone else who wasn't as fit as you are, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I I'm not a doctor. Obviously, I didn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, but potentially someone with really weak muscles, it could be up to severing the spine, the column, the spine.
Right. Yes.
Or broken vertebrae that in turn affect your disc, which is it could be potentially really painful for life, right?
Right. Wow. And then the third part is, getting into a little bit of, we're talking about purpose here, creating your purpose. In that moment, I know that there are things that can happen in your life where the light bulb just comes on. Let me know, dissect that moment where you're like a little more than if I'm going to, kind of spread my message to other people through coaching, how did you know? What were the signs? What was the validation that you were so certain you walked in the door and said, hey, guy I married, we're done.
Yeah.
Walk us through a little bit more of a dissection of that process and how you really knew it was time.
I think it's a great question too. I think what it was is that there was quite a few things that was happening internally that I knew about that I wasn't being courageous in my life with. And for example, traveling and climbing at that point in my life had become easy. I wasn't growing in that. I was
Yeah.
parked in where I was. It looked great from the inside, adventurous, you would call it. But for me, it was bread and butter. That's what I do. Teach these
Right.
people this. It's done, you know. So I felt like I was parked, and I was sort of in my head. I remember in that time, because we had just finished the house, going, is this the end? Like, this is what I worked for all this time? And I knew the answer was not. I knew it wasn't. But I had invested so much in the moment,
Right.
to get the house and the couch and all this stuff. And I knew it, I was like, no, there's more, and I need to do more. Like, I'm gonna be unhappy, depressed, or drunk if I don't.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And so, I find that that's so hard. I mean, that was hard for me to take action and doing something, just really jumping. But I find that, especially with a lot of my clients, it's easy to just keep doing the same thing. It's easy to keep doing, okay, all I really wanted out of life was to have a job, a 9 to 5 job, have a roof over my head, food on the table, have love in my life, all those things. But then it's like, how can you leave a perfectly good relationship? You weren't being abused. There was none of that. I mean, it wasn't necessarily that it was loveless, was it? I mean, you
No,
loved
because
him.
we had and still have a great relationship.
Right. So was it that you felt like, yeah, apparently, because he's one of your best friends. Yeah. So was it just that you felt like you individually, I know you said you weren't growing. So was it that you weren't growing together, or were you just kind of holding yourself back to his level? So it's,
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily even think that. Maybe some people would, but my case was that I was letting it be comfortable, and
mm,
that situation was comfortable for me.
right.
So, and I knew that there were things that I needed to do without this. I had to get out of this comfort.
Okay.
And it was, for me in that moment, it was financial. We kind of had a easy financial agreement where my ex-husband used to, and still does, work a lot with movies. So he would work these short contracts where he made a lot of money. And he was like, there's no point of you in working because we can just have all this time off.
Hmm.
Right. So for a long time, I was feeling like I wasn't being on my own.
I see.
And so there was really no way to do this fake it. Right? I
Yeah.
had to go out there, be on my own, like I was when I was 18,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And 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 then I knew also that it wouldn't be enough for me to go out there and get a job and be on my own. I
Yeah.
needed to do my purpose and be on my own.
Yeah. Because
Right?
you'd have to say that in your core, in your being, this was the person, this was the identity, that who you were. And then through your marriage and through kind of, coming into the safe area of being married, that's how you knew you were no longer aligned in your purpose.
Right.
Wow. So, how would you translate that to someone who's not a rock climber, maybe someone who's not even married? But let's say someone in their late 20s, early 30s, who is still like, I have no idea what I have been put here to do. It's the thing, 2021 is right around the corner. What would you say are some quick action steps that people can do to find their purpose?
Mm. Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about it because I believe that um, every single one of us can create something in their life that really drives them, that really excites them, that
Hmm.
really makes them feel like they are in the right place,
Yeah.
right? And I say create because I don't think we find that stuff. Um, it's possible that someone's going to say rock climbing and you're going to be like, this is it. But it's also possible that that will never happen. And then you will need to look really deeply inside of yourself and see what it is in you that can really get fired up and where it is.
Mhm.
And even if it doesn't feel like it's the end all purpose and I'm going to make a life of it, as we are courageous and actually follow what our body tells us
Yeah.
and follow that intuition, and then we start acting, however hard and scary it is, we find that that action creates more more engagement, more buy-in
Right.
into what it is. Right?
Absolutely. Do you find that purpose generally starts in childhood?
Or against it. It's interesting, like just when you said that, I was like, no, mine was against what they tried to give me in my childhood. So in opposition of,
Right.
Stable life, have kids, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I'm going the other way, you guys.
Right. Where did that come from though? Why wouldn't you just go with what your parents wanted? Why wouldn't you just swim down that stream?
Yeah. It's very clear to me because they didn't look happy when I look at it.
Oh, I see.
But I mean, not just them. I'm not judging that their lives are miserable. I remember looking at the world going, and I think that has to do with, the Iron Curtain and the Berlin Wall fell when I was 8. So my world went from this is the rules to no, these are the rules. We were wrong. And I was like 8, and I'm like, you guys have no idea. This is all made up, right?
Right.
So from then I was like, everything that we're in is made up. There's nothing stable, and why don't I just do whatever I want?
Wow. What are the characteristics? Like, where does that come from? I know you saw the evidence of, like, I remember, like, I was on someone else's podcast and they were like, how did you become a badass? I was like, am I a badass? I didn't know when that became but like, when did you, like, the characteristics, what are the characteristics that you think you embody that kind of has become a part of your superpower as a coach? What are those characteristics?
Yeah, perfectly timely question. I was hiking through the woods thinking about that, and then the first one is that I am not willing to follow the rules that are given externally. I will follow some rules if they're like, if it makes sense, but I don't usually get on board in my heart.
Okay.
I can do it for someone, but internally it's all wide open for me. I don't have hangups that have to do with that. So this is one. Number 2 is action. I was when I was young, I had this friendship, and we used to just do a lot of stuff together. And this has been a superpower for me all my life. When I had the near-death experience, I was able to go straight and act on it. I know what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Here's the papers, honey, right? Here's
honey.
Right. And I see it daily when I coach with my clients. That ability to take action, even in the face of doubt or not knowing, is so crucial, because it at least gets us out of where we are. And it just changes the environment. Now we have to deal. Now you have to get inventive. Now you can turn on your creativity, right?
Yeah.
So teeny step.
Teeny step. Oh my goodness. So thank you for sharing that, and I love that you were thinking about these things. So if we're going to pivot a little bit into overcoming fear, right? We all know that failure is a stepping stone to success, and outside of your climb, when have you massively failed, didn't see the light, and went, holy shit, that happened for me? Can you walk us through an example of something that actually happened in your real life?
Of a big failure?
Of a big failure. But because I feel like, you're talking about fear, get up and do it. I know I fell and broke 4 vertebrae and stuff, but I know what I'm doing now. Most people would be like, that's a massive failure. I'm not rock climbing ever again. So is there another example in your life, like even if it's in your business, like have there been any moments where you're like, damn this, I'm going to go back to my 9 to 5, not that you had your more traditional type job. When have you massively failed?
Thanks for this uncomfortable question.
You're welcome.
You said it's gonna be fun. You didn't say it's gonna be uncomfortable. It's It's so interesting. I'll think of something will come to me, but the first thing that came when you asked this was that um, when we watch the world's best climbers on video, any one of you can go now and watch world's best climbers on YouTube. What they're going to show you is the guy or the girl failing 99.9% of the time. They're going to show you try number 517. This person has tried something so many times, right?
Right.
So what sets up a high achiever from someone who's not is how often and how much they're willing to fail, right? So for
Right.
me, I'm an average good climber. I will fail up to 30 times. That's how much emotional resilience I have for failure, right?
Wow.
And then the world's best, they fail 500 times, right? Deal with that.
Yeah.
Huh. And so that really helps me look at failure as just a process, really like a process. And it doesn't make it comfortable ever, right? It just, everything still comes up. When failure, what comes up is excuses, right? Bargaining with reality.
Yeah.
All that other stuff, but it doesn't go away. But I know that the mark of an expert is how many times we can get up and go.
Wow. So all that to say, you don't believe that you've massively failed. You've learned, you've fallen down, and because of your resiliency, you've gotten up every time. So is it that you don't view anything, any of your failures as failures?
I think I do, and I'm now thinking of times in my life when I didn't get up. I was in the film industry at some point, and I made a documentary, and I just didn't have the resilience to keep on promoting it as it should have been promoted, and so I failed in get the movie is wonderful. However, I didn't get up enough to spread that message.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So looking back at that, um, I can see what I was lacking. And right now, I'm like, I will never let this happen again. I need to be getting up. Get
Yeah.
up, get up, get up.
Is it just because you told yourself that? Or what was the difference between you having such resilience with something else and not having it with that? Is it just, so what did you learn from that? Just saying, I'm never going to let that happen again?
That I realized that it's on me and in me, that everything that makes me not do it is an excuse, right? And it's usually driven by not wanting to be uncomfortable, right? It would have been uncomfortable for me to keep on promoting that film, and so I quit, right? So to me, that's a failure. But so then I learned, and I see how I did that, and I'm like, I will not go there. Every time I want to go there in my mind, I'll remember that moment and be like, no, guess what? You don't have a way out. No, you're going forward.
Wow. I love that. This is so inspiring, and I, like you're saying, I can talk about this stuff all day as well. So now I want to, talk about mastering your mind. In my next podcast episode, I talk about, some of the thought spirals that we can sort of get into. I get into, you get into, we all get into these things that keep us in a certain place from maybe not taking enough action, right? So if I'm still having the same thoughts I was having in 2020 as 2021 approaches, then generally speaking, my life will be the same as it was in 2020, right? That's what we seem to think,
Right. Yeah.
What would you tell someone? Because we know, not everybody has the jargon of limited beliefs and all those things, but what would you tell someone who right now might be listening, how to overcome some of the thoughts they have in mind, how to find that resilience to get up when you've fallen 77 times and to keep going, how to master their mind and their emotions? If they took nothing else from this episode, boom, they can take this into 2021.
Yeah, and I do think it's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
I think we can effectively change the world by changing our mind in that way.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a story. I'll tell it to you in a story. And this is also having to do with failure and climbing. So few years ago, I was in Greece and I was trying the route that was really overhanging and really, really difficult, right? And so I was trying it, meaning like I'm doing it every day, trying, falling, learning, falling, right? And I started getting into a really negative mindset. And I started being, like, I noticed it. I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. I should do this and this and this. I blah, 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 blah. Right. My shoes are wrong. The weather's bad. Right. This is where I was at. Right. And I remember this particular afternoon, I was coming back from the climbing and I stopped. I was imagine me on a little scooter, and I stopped. And I'm looking at the ocean going, this is enough. Enough of that already. Like, there was a moment where I decided I will not give in to these thoughts. They can keep on coming if they want to, but I am putting a wall, right? I will not act on these thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. And so this was a very practical moment to me. I didn't yet know how to proceed, which I'll explain to you how. But having that moment, so basically, if the pain of the experience is painful enough, is big enough, we'll change our mind. We'll be like, okay, I need to start changing my thoughts, right?
Right.
And I didn't yet know back then how to do it, but slowly I gained some tools. And the tool I really love to use lately is to seeing a thought, right? Whatever that thought is, I'm not good enough, or some thought that we don't like, right? And then seeing how it makes us feel, how it makes us act, and what are results of these actions. So really seeing what the impact of these thoughts is physically on our life, right?
Right.
Maybe if you want to be dating, if your thought is, I'm not very attractive, the most likely outcome and results is not meeting anyone, right?
Right.
So then I take that and then I say, okay, what is the result I would like to have? Right? One result I would like to have. Okay, meeting people. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to meet people. How do I need to act? What are the actions I need to take to meet people?
Yeah.
Well, I need to reach out, blah, 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 go on the app, go outside. I don't get a dog. I don't know. Dogs are great.
Yeah.
How do I need to feel in order to take these actions, right? In order to feel that way, in order to take these actions, I need to feel energized. Like I put time into my exercise and I eat correctly, right? And then, okay, what are the thoughts that will help me do that?
Yeah,
right?
generate
So
that, right?
We reverse engineer these thoughts. And so for anyone who's listening and you're going to try it at home, don't design a thought, I am attractive, because there is a big chance that you will not get on board of this. If the thought is a boat, you won't be able to get on top of that.
You need a dock first, huh?
Yeah. So I like designing thoughts that are entry-level thoughts.
That makes sense. Absolutely.
Right. So for example, some people think I am funny. That would be a thought that someone could have. And from that thought, design these actions and get different results.
Oh, I love that.
Once we get different results, we can start, we see change, there's movement, and we can start, sort of getting up on some higher thoughts.
Right. That's perfect. Thank you for that really, really realistic example. And so in order to be that self-aware, right, I know you place a huge emphasis on connecting to your body, because I know what happens in the mind automatically shows up in the body first, right? So how can people get to know their bodies and themselves more? How can they connect better to their bodies so that they can identify these things and other things that can set them up for success throughout their day?
Yeah, I think the something that really plagues us as humans is that we're averse to feeling our feelings, right? So it's and we all have it. I have it, you have it, all of us have it.
Yeah, it's true.
The best example is when you hear some news and you're like, I don't want to deal with it, right?
Click, turn that off. Yeah.
right? Because it's challenging. So I'm not saying to feel everything that comes your way. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying is that the stuff that's important, the first step is having courage to open the door to actually feeling it, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah.
And when we have the agreement to feel it, then we're sitting, in silence and without distractions, we will also feel it in our body. If we start
Yeah.
listening, we'll hear, right? And so all of a sudden we'll have a emptiness in the chest, or tightness in the heart, or we'll have a tingling in the belly, right?
Right.
And so as we tune into these body sensations, we don't need to change them. We don't need to do anything about them. Is we start noticing that they are there. So let's say I'm really sad and I go and sit and I'm okay. I'm going to start feeling my feelings and I'm going to listen to my body. What I realize, for example, is that I have a certain tightness in my throat. There is a sensation of tightness and
Right.
sadness in my throat. What that does is it helps us realize that not all of me is sad.
Yeah.
There is some sadness in my throat.
Okay.
So I'm not overwhelming sadness. Part of me feels it. And so this is the first step of separating from these overwhelming feelings. It's
Yeah.
allowing them to be and sort of realizing where they are in the body, right?
Oh, I love that.
Everybody can do
Yeah.
it right now. You guys can all do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's something that I do. And which we do in our mastermind group is like assessing your body, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Mm-hmm.
Every one of my clients will do it. And so I love that you integrate that. And so for me, when I wake up, if I'm not at my general number is like an 8.5, because a 10, sometimes it's like, my 10 is hanging from the rafters. I'm so excited and dancing on the side of the road, and there's not even any music playing. But I
You
love
guys,
to.
when Trey is a 10, we have to cut her off sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Because and that really is my 10. And so I love how much you stress that as well, because it just shows up every day, all day long, and we can really be on top of it. Okay, so just a couple more questions before we wrap up. So now this is a fun question, I think. Because you're so adventurous, because your values are anarchy and freedom. What are
I just made it up on the spot, by
Hey,
the
it
way.
sounds good, but everything that you've said falls dead into that. Really aligned. What are a couple of things that could exist on your bucket list
Mm.
that you just would love to do before you leave this earth? What are a couple of those things?
Mm. I haven't asked myself that question in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I feel like anything that's going to be on my bucket list is process oriented. So that would mean is to go through the process of achieving something, right?
Okay.
So
Right.
for me, as opposed to like, if you were like, do you want to climb the Everest, right? I'll be like, yeah, I'm interested what happens every step, sort of the deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen here, what the resistance is, right? In me, which are the parts of me that will help me
Okay.
understand myself a little bit more. I think I was done with my bucket list in my 20s. I was like, I did everything I ever wanted. And
Wow.
yeah, I did so much stuff. So following that, I would like to have an experience of climbing a grade. We have grades in climbing that I've never climbed before, because that
Yeah.
would, not because I want to have climbed it, but
Mm-hmm.
because I want to have the experience, what it teaches me in the process, right?
That's so cool. When people ask me, the bucket list question, I go, oh, I want to go to Amsterdam. Oh, I would love to go to Germany and drink German beer, because I love this. And you're like, I want the process. It's not that I just want to climb Everest. I want the whole process of moving through the resistance. But like, it just shows like the quality of your experiences. Experiences is evidently very important to you. And so it's like you are motivating me right now to live more boldly.
Mm.
You know, I think of my experiences again, traveling, but not really doing much when I travel. We're going to go drink beer or something like that. But now it's like, how can I lean more into those spheres and the true experiences of what is it that I can learn from this trip? How can I push myself out of my comfort zone? And you've been doing that since you were 20.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that just thank you. It just shows how much this is my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Drop me off anywhere in the world with $10 and I can figure it out. Like, it doesn't scare me all that much, right? So now I kind of done that. So I want to go depth. I want to go in, and I want to, like, something on my bucket list is figure out how to help anyone in the world find their purpose. Like, I want to
Mm.
have a recipe for the most resistant and bored person to tap into the the spring of life.
Nice. That's so good. You know, I had a friend of mine on the podcast, Faith Chalmers, and you and Faith have so much in common because Faith likes to road cycle. She also will go camping by herself. And I'm pretty sure I mentioned that my friend Marta has a van, and that van is so souped up, she can live in it, it's fancy. And then she'll just go park in some park and be okay with that. And the first question I ask is, what, do you have a gun? What if somebody comes up to the vent, and you're like, oh my God, that whole saboteur in your brain. But I would love to lean in to being more adventurous, to being more courageous, to being more bold, because I know that I show it in different ways. So, last question before we figure out how to connect with you. What if someone else wants to lean into their boldness, into their courage, their strength, like not living a mundane, mediocre, average kind of life? What would be your advice to me and to all those people who are wanting the exact same thing?
This is like, this is why I'm on this earth. Is
Yeah.
this question? um, sometimes we have a hard time knowing whether we actually want to do something or not.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's like pressure, or like, do you want to go skydiving, Trey? And you're gonna be like, well, I should because it's adventurous, but I don't know, blah 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 blah, right?
Yeah.
So to do any of that stuff for the sake of having done it, I would say toss that out. If there is a piece in you that says, I want to say that I have climbed the Everest, toss that idea out. It's not going to help you anything. It might help your ego in some way or whatever, put on a resume, right? I train Navy SEALs, whatever, right? But
Yeah.
really, in the moment when you're posing that question, I want to do something, go into your body and see what the answer is in there, right? Because your body will know. I don't know how, I can't explain it, but your body will know whether it's just excitement and like, where you really want to do it, right? And when you feel that in your body, the yes,
Oh, I know where that is.
when you feel the yes, go and do it. Don't question that. Don't come up with excuses why. There's always a million excuses why not to do something.
Yeah.
Right? As soon as we start thinking about it, we can find, I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that, right? So whenever you feel that yes, go and try, even if it's a teeniest step, try it. Go on that one overnight camping thing, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is, see what it's like and see what that opens for you. Because as soon as you take one step higher, you have more, you see more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Check with your body, see what it is, right? And then you can
Absolutely.
take that other step. So don't let other people tell you what it is I guess what I'm getting at. Because
Yeah.
we are like, it's so often that we're getting like, you should do this, what you would love is this. It's like, no, go in and find out. Say thank you to all the suggestions and find out inside, however it shows up, and have the courage to trust it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That makes so much sense, because even though we're both coaches, there's just so many times where I go, I never thought of that. Now I'll tell a client all day long, but for myself, you need people to point out those blind spots, which I'm so glad, that, we're masterminding together, so that we can keep pushing each other to a different level. So thank you. Thank you for that. This has been so great. This has been a conversation that I haven't had like probably ever. And I love that, one thing that some of my friends would say is, God, you ask so many questions. You're so nosy, and it's like, these are the kind of conversations that I want to have because they're so thought provoking. Like just our time together right now in this podcast has already got me thinking, my wheels are turning. And I'm like, okay, what can I go out and do now that leans into my boldness, that makes me more courageous, that walks more boldly into that fear? I love that. Thank you for this. And so right now I want to wrap up with how can the audience connect with you, which I know one of the best places is where I find so much value is on your YouTube channel with your 2-minute videos, And so tell us a little bit about, your whole your motivation for creating those, and then tell us, where your preferred methods of contact are.
Yeah, I was, when I was setting up my coaching business, I realized that the best way for people to get to know me is to see me through video.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point I started creating these, and also I'm a really brief person. I like things to go fast.
Right.
And I think that a lot of audience right now is like that too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came up with this idea of doing 2-minute videos. And then I was sitting there thinking, how do I talk about what life coaching is, give people value, and also have fun in the process of doing it,
Yeah.
because that's really important for me. When I commit to doing something, I can be 100% committed as long as my body tells me hell yes.
Yeah.
So I was sitting there thinking, how can I get on board completely with this? And then I decided, oh, it's going to help if I'm doing little animations and little drawings, and it's going to make it funny, and I'm going to stay engaged.
Right.
So yeah, anyone who's interested, go on my YouTube. It's called Coaching with Marta, and my videos are called 2-minute videos for the best life. And everyone is a teeny little tip on how to do something in life. Some are about how to have better relationships, how to communicate better. Some are how to change your thoughts. And there's one coming out every week.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm subscribed to your YouTube channel. Guys, go and subscribe to her YouTube channel. The videos are so entertaining and it's always a good message. I especially am drawn to the stick figures. I love them, love them, love. I know I bring that up a lot, but I love the stick figures because they're so funny to me. No, you did it. You're the boss, and it's just this twig of an arm. And so that's the way my psychology works. I'm so easily entertained. So guys, absolutely check out Coach Marta. She is a total badass, and I think after COVID, after we get the vaccine, which people are starting to get vaccinated, after this
today, first one.
I know. So after this, we can probably get back to a point of doing more things in person. And so I would love to do a climb with you. Now, look, the first thing I was going to say, but not a real big one,
Yeah. Careful what you wish for there.
I know. So I immediately followed up, well, not a big one. I don't want you to scare the shit out of me, that kind of thing. But I would love to test myself a little bit with you. So that would be so badass. I would love the experience of that.
That would be so much fun.
Yes. So Marta, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. The value that you provided today, I think, is absolutely priceless. So thank you so much. And guys, follow Marta on her YouTube channel. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. She's everywhere. She's a badass coach. And if you want to work with her, she is a great coach to work with and take you through your shit, through your edges to find that glory spot, right? To find your treasure island, that utopia. So Marta, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm so impressed by your skills, by how you do it. I don't know how you do it. You are amazing.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. If you even want to know more about what I'm up to, head over to traviastewart.com. And if you like seeing the videos of the podcast, every episode is on my YouTube channel. Take care, guys.